Rami bar Abba Amar Rav Asi. It's the top, towards the top of the page. It's the last of the narrow lines. Again, it's 100 B, last of the narrow lines. Amarami baraba amaravasi. Also, Ladam she halach al gabi asavim b'Shabbos mishum shenemar va'atz beraglayim chayte. Puts a pasuk in Mishlei. A person should not walk on grass on Shabbos. Says va'atz, someone that rushes beraglayim with his feet. Chayte is a sinner. It means that you can do an avera on Shabbos even with walking, with tearing out the grass when he walks. There's one brisa that says that you're allowed to walk on grass on Shabbos, but there's another brisa that says that you're not allowed to walk on grass on Shabbos. The Gemara answer is easy. Like kasha, it depends if the grass is alive. If the grass is alive, then when you walk on it, you tear it out and you're uprooting it. You're tailish. If the grass is dead, so it's considered like it's telusha already. So it's dead. So there's no problem with walking on it on Shabbos. Iba Yasema, another teretz, so we can resolve the contradiction. Hava habalachim, both the grass is alive, it's moist. Like kasha, kambi meisacham, kambi meisagishaman. Okay, here it doesn't say what the issue is. It says, okay, here it's in the summer, here it's in the winter. In the summer, is it aser, or in the summer it's mutter? So, what do you think? It's probably dried out. It's probably dried out. Okay, so in the Abernathan says in the summer it's aser, and in the winter it's going to be mutter. So is that a problem, or is it? Oh, so it's the other way. In the summer it's going to be mutter. In the winter it's going to be aser, because it's going to be easier to remove from the ground. And it doesn't say clearly. The only thing is that from the next Gemara, it seems that it's the other way. From the next Gemara. So what happens when it's the rainy season? From the next Gemara, it's going to be clear that the Maisa Chama, it's going to be Aser. In the summer, it's going to be Aser. May have to do with the seeds are coming out. It may have to do with that it's longer. Both it's talking about in the time when it should be Aser. That's I have to learn it. The Messiah Misani. One is where he's wearing shoes, and one is when he's not wearing shoes. So which one is worse? The Rashi over here tells us that when he's wearing shoes, it's better. Because when he's not wearing shoes, it gets caught between his toes. And it could pull it out. But when he's wearing shoes, I guess clogs, what's he going to pull out? It's just steps on it. Okay, Iba Yasem Havaha, the Messiah Masani, both of them is wearing shoes. However, that should be fine. Do the shoes have spikes? There's two ways of learning this, actually. Some say that the shoes have spikes, and the spikes will pull out, what do they call it, cleats. That will pull out the grass. Or maybe the grass has ukti, has like thorns in it that will cause it to get pulled out. We're talking about where there's spikes. Depends how long and entangled it is. If the grass is entangled, you're walking through it, then you're going to pull it out. But if it's just straight grass, it's not going to pull it out. But now that we paskin like Reb Shimon, that holds davar sheina miskaven is mutter. If you don't have intention to pull out the grass, it's not a problem. So then there's no problem anyway, because you didn't intend that. Of course, if it's a psikresha, that would be a problem. Okay. Amar Rami bar Chama Amar Ravasi. You see, now it switches to Rami Bar Chama. Before it was Rami Bar Abba. It must be that it's supposed to be Rami Bar Chama the whole time. Oh, no, it must be the other way. I see on the side there's a Aga from the Rashash that it's supposed to be Rami Bar Abba here. Okay, one of them is supposed to be adjusted. I don't know. Rami Amar Rami Bar Abba Amar Abasi. Also, Ladam Shiyakovish Dilidvar Mitzvah. A person is not allowed to force his wife to have relations. Someone that hastens, that rushes with his legs, with his feet, is a sinner. What does it mean? He hastens. He doesn't have her consent, and raglayim must be euphemistic for relations. Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Shua ben Levi. We're going back some generations here. He says that anyone that forces his wife to have relations has children that are not mahugan. What how do you say? That are not correct. That are not good. They're not proper. Ravika bar Chinna Mikra. Ravika bar Chinna says, where do you know this from? It says Gam also b'lei das, without knowledge, nefesh leitayv. A person is not good. Now that's the pasuk of Atz Paraglaim Chayte. It's the same pasuk in Mishnah. So over there it says that also without knowledge, it's not good for a person to be without knowledge. What it means is that over here, that without her consent, nefesh leitayv, they create a child that's not good. Tanya Namihachi was also taught in the Brisa Gambale das nefesh leitayv zehakayfe ishtel edvar mitzvah. Someone that forces his wife to have relations is this nefesh leitayv. Vatz beraglaim chayte. Someone that hastens with his feet is a sinner. Zehabayil v'shayna. This is the one that has relations twice. He's bayil v'shayna. So it looks like it's a negative thing. Both of these are negative. The Gemara says, Aini, is that so? That this is something that's not good? This is based on what it says that Ish Mazriya Tchila, if the man gives seed first, so then Yeledas Nekeva, he gives birth to a female. And Isha Mazras Tchila, if she gives seed first, then Yeledas Zachar, then it's a male. So the Gemara suggests that if he's Bayal V'Shaina, if he has relations twice, then from the second relation, she even if he was Mazras Tchila the first time, but from the second time, she'll have preceded him and be able to have a male child. So Rava says that someone that wants to have male children, it's the Sfardim, it's very important. So it looks like it's a positive thing. The Gemara says like Kasha. Kan ladas, kan shlei ladas. Depends if she consented to this. We're talking about the bayil v'shayna is without her consent. That's the Atzbraglaim Chayte. Okay. Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani, Reb, probably Reb Yonason. It's usually Reb Yonason. By Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani. Here it says Reb Yechanan. On the side it says Yonason. It says Kol Isha Shativas Baila Var Mitzvah Lebanim Shafila B'der Shel Meisha Lehai Kamaisan. Any woman that requests relations from her husband will have children that even in the generation of Moshe there were no children like that. Amazing children. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Sounds like it's a good thing. We'll see. Don't stop the Gemara right here. You have to read further. Because in the generation of Moshe it says it says to get these the people that would be the judges. So it says you should get wise, understanding, and known to their tribes. And then it says, then it says that they didn't find people that were understanding. It only says anashim chacham v'yedum. Is this by the judges or is this by just appointing leaders? By appointing the leaders, they didn't find anyone that was understanding. It says chacham and v'yedum. It skips the word nevainim when they actually were appointed. They didn't find anyone that was understanding. Okay. It says regarding Leah. Now Leah sold those dudaim to be able to have that night with Yaakov. So she gives the dudaim to Rachel. So yeah, and she goes out to Yaakov and she says, "You're supposed to come to my tent tonight." It says, Leah goes out to greet Yaakov. To me you come because I paid for it with the dime. And it says the child from that was Yisrael Rashayim Masayim V'Cholachem Alpiyim. This is a pasuk in Divrei Yamim. It says that the children of Yisachar know understanding for the times to know what the people should do. There were 200 leaders, and everyone did according to their words, which means that the children that were born from this were understanding. So it sounds like it's a very good thing for the woman to request relations. The Gemara says, "Aini, is that so?" But we have, looks like a quote from Abastir of Nassim. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi says, "Eser klolis niskal lachava." Chava was cursed with 10 curses. The ksiv Elisha Amar, to the woman he said, "Harbi arba will increase your pain and labor pain and all of that." So what does it say? It says Harba Arba will increase. That's referring to Elu Shnei Tipidamim Achastam Nida V'Achastam Basila. 2 drops of blood. One is the Nida blood, and one is the virginity blood. That, I guess, without the curse, she wouldn't have either of them. It's Vainech. You're suffering. Zetzai Gidul Banim. This is the suffering of raising children.
I just heard the other day, I think from this Fasemis about Tsar Gidul Banim, it says that you're supposed to put a comma and say Tsar Gidul Banim, that the pain of our own personal growth is through our parenting. So in other words, for our growth that we expect to have because of what was been designated up in Shemaim, it's through our children. So it's not so in other words, it's really for our strength and growth. But
yeah, very nice. Let me say it over here. Ramesh is saying Tsar Gidel Banim. It's you put the comma by Tsar Gidel or a hyphen. How do we have with the pain that we have when we're growing is the way we raise our children, and I guess the raising our children helps us grow. So that's the first thing. If you look at this, there seems to be something out of order here. It says it's Vainech Zetzai Gidul Banim. That's the raising of the children. The Reinech is the pregnancy. Zetzara Iber. I don't understand why it goes like that. I would assume that the pregnancy becomes before the raising the children. Be'etzev Teldi Banim. In pain shall give birth. Kamashmai. That's the birth pangs. Vel ishech chukasech shall desire her husband. Malamid sheisha mishtekechas al baila b'shashetz l'derech, which means that a woman desires her husband when before he goes on a trip. V'hu yimshal bach, and he will rule over you. Malamid sheisha tevas b'leiv v'ish tevea b'peh. That means that a woman requests relations in her heart. I mean, she's ashamed to express it verbally, but the man expresses it verbally. And this is a good quality for the women. It's more tznius. Now we have a contradiction because we had a statement from Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani in the name of Rabbi Yonasan that the children will come out. B'nei bin, what was it? I don't say about Yisachar. B'nei Yisachar yedi bin aleitim, become wise. And here it says that it's not a good characteristic. So the Gemara says, it doesn't mean that she's tevas prepared, that she's requesting verbally. It means that she's making herself pleasing to him. She's making it obvious that she's requesting, but without verbalizing it. Okay. Now, if you go through this, we have, it started off with saying that there were 10 curses. If you count it, there's really only 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess if you count Shnei Tipei Damim as 2, then it's 7. Hani Sheva Haven, there's only 7. So Skiyasa Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came, Amar, Atufa Ke'evel Menudim Mikaladam Chavush Beisasum. He adds 3 more. He says that there's 3 more curses for the women. What are these 3 curses? First is that she always looks like she's mourning. I guess the mourner would always wrap their heads, would wrap their heads. They were atuf. And the woman is ashamed to go out with her hair uncovered. So she's always wrapped up with a tichel. The next is Menuda Mikaladam. This is not a support for the anti-shaitel organization. You don't have to increase labor pains, or because it says you're allowed to do it easier with whatever medications they have. You're allowed to. So it's not like a halacha. Menuda Mikaladam. Menuda is like excommunicated. She's separated from all men. And she's held in prison. Held in prison means that she's in the kitchen. She's stuck at home because it says a woman stays at home. She doesn't hang out outside. The Gemara asks, what does it mean that she's separated from all people? Is it because she's not allowed to be secluded with another person? Well, a man is also not allowed to be secluded with other women. So that's not a curse specifically for a woman. Ella dasir lebeitrei. Yeah, thank you. Asir lebeitrei. She's prohibited from marrying 2 men. I see a man, at least biblically, can marry two wives. But the woman can't marry 2 men. Right? Yeah. So here it looks like one of the curses. There were 10 curses that Chava was cursed. One is that she's not allowed to marry 2 men. Yeah, I had a question. How would it have worked? The asking if she didn't sin. What would have looked like? That's a funny Gemara. Would have been the reverse. Let's have Nassan's Teretz. Very good. Would have been the reverse. For Masni Satana, there's a brisa that says Megadela Sar Kalilas, that she grows her hair like Lilas is the name of the female demon. She grows her hair long like this demon. Okay, now at least we know what it looks like. Yeah, she also, when a woman urinates, she sits down like an animal. So, and she's also a cushion for her husband. That means by relations, the woman is on the bottom. So she's a cushion for her husband. Now that's 3 more curses that the Brisa says. So in those, we only had 7. Here's the other 3. The idach. 1 second. We just added in 3. What do they hold? We just said Rav Dimi came and said that she has to wear a tichel and she can't marry 2 men, and she's stuck in the kitchen, or she's stuck at home. What is you have these other 3. What do they hold? Hani shvachula. They hold, Rav Dimi holds that these are not curses; these are improvements. What is the meaning of the pasuk? The animals will teach us. The Aleph is the Aramaic to learn. Right? They'll teach, the animals will teach us. And the birds of the heaven will make us wise. We'll learn from the animals, Zupreda. Learn from the animals, learn from the female mule. That she crouches down when she urinates. And from the birds of the heaven will make us wise. We'll learn from the rooster that the rooster first appeases the hen, and then he has relations. Then they mate. Amr Rabbi Yechanan, it's a famous Gemara here. Rabbi Yechanan says, if the Torah wouldn't have been given, Lamedim, we would have learned modesty from a cat, because the cat never makes in front of a person. It always covers it over, and it hides it. Gezel minamala, the ants, we would learn not to steal from the ants. It says about the ants that that they gather their bread and no one steals from its friend. Said would have said hard work. Okay. Arayas miyayna would have learned to be faithful from a dove. The dove doesn't mate. Once it mates once with another bird, it never mates again with with a different one. And that's what it's by the Yaina, by Noach, sends out the bird and it brings back an olive branch. I think the olive tree is one of the only trees that can't be grafted. So you have two sorts. The problem with before the flood was that they weren't faithful. They mate with other species and everything. Here it comes back with the rectification of the dove comes back. That's very faithful. In the olive is the tree that's faithful. It can't be grafted. Okay, derech eretz mitarnagol, we would learn proper conduct from a rooster. That first it appeases and then it has relations. What is the appeasement that the rooster does? Amar Rav Yudah Marav. Rav Yudah says the name of Rav Hachi Kamala. It says the following. We're going to have a conversation over here. Zavinina lach ziga, the matlach ad karech. I'm going to go buy you a coat that's going to go down to your feet. The Basar Hachi, after the relations Amar Lei, he says to her, to the hen, Lishtamse lekarbalte, dahu tarnagola. Let the what's it called, the crest of this rooster fall off. If he has the means, the funds to buy the coat and he doesn't buy it, and he said, "What could I do? I don't have the money. Or the money to buy that coat that I promised."
It's interesting that the Rambam tells us that we will learn about relations from a chicken. I'm sorry, it's interesting. Gemara tells us that we will learn relations from a chicken, because the Rambam specifically warns us not to have relations like a chicken, because chickens just have relations whenever they want, and we should be limited or controlled. And I'm suspecting the Rambam got from somewhere else in Gemara.
Yeah, it sounds like a question.
Yeah. Different Gemaras. But the other question I really want is, why don't we go off on a tangent? Really, Shabbos, walking through grass, hearing up. And then suddenly this veered off in a whole direction.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. So we got into this, the natural progression of how we got into this was we said that we quoted a pasuk, that someone that walks on Shabbos through the grass is a sinner. We learned something else from this pasuk, that someone that has relations without his wife's consent is a sinner, and that's how we got into this. There are theories that say, Shukaya. Thank you. There are theories that say that the teacher supposed to say a story and then say a halacha to join it together. So really, every halacha in the Gemara came along with the story, with some sort of agadata. Now, sometimes we have it clearly, you have halacha with agadata, and sometimes you don't have it. So, but if you would be able to space it out properly, you'd be able to match. And some of them, we don't have the stories that went along. Okay. We have now new Mishnah. We're on top of Kafala. Hadelas Shebemuktzah. A door that goes to a backyard. And it's not a proper door. V'chadakim Shebepirtza. And thorns that are filling in a gap in the fence. And mats. You can't use them as a door. The problem here that the Gemara is Mishnah is throwing in is that there's an issue of building. And Shabbos. So certain doors, if a door is on a hinge, it's not a problem. It's already built. When you close it, that's the way it's used. That's it opens and closes. It's not considered that you're building the house when you close the door, or makav patish or something. But if it's not attached, then when you put it up there, it's as if you're building. You're closing off a wall. You're closing off a hole in the wall. And what's the solution for these things? The Mishnah says, they have to be lifted off the ground. I guess that means they have to be hanging, or they have to be raised. Okay, the Gemara is a contradiction. It's a slight contradiction. Raminu, delas anagreris, a door that's dragged. Machzelas anagreris, and mats that are dragged. The kankan. This is some sort of tool that's on the back of a plow, and apparently it could be used as a door. Kankan anigra. If it's tied and hanging, you can close this door on Shabbos, and for sure you can close it on Yom Tov. Now the issue here is that the main thing is that it's hanging, not that it's raised off the ground. It just needs to be attached. So in this brisa doesn't say that it needs to be raised above the ground. Yeah, we had this before, that there was shutters on a window. You couldn't put the shutters in. The window didn't have glass. The window was an opening. So you couldn't put the shutters in unless there were shutters that were hanging from something, and then you could put them in. So here it says that hanging is the issue. So Amar Abaya responds, he says, B'shyesh lem tzir. If they have a hinge, the hinge meant that it had a little thing on the ground that went like it was pointing upwards, and the door would just sit on that, and so it could slide, it could swing. So if it has a hinge, so then it doesn't need to be raised above the ground. That was enough. The hinge itself made it that this was already a door. Rava Amar b'shahayel emtzir. It doesn't even need the hinge. It's only if it had the hinge once, it's already good. Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. Delas anigres, machzelas anigres, v'kankan anigres, bisman shekeshurim etluyim ugavayim menaris. This is a bit of a problem for both. First of all, it says at the time when it's hanging and tied, hanging and above the ground, raised off the ground. Even if it's just like a hair's width of a hair. Then you can use this as a door. And if not, then you can't use it as a door. Here we're saying that you need both. It needs to be hanging, it needs to be tied. It also needs to be above the ground. Both of them give an answer. Abaya answers, you put the word or in there, and you need either or. Either it had a frame, it had a hinge, and then it doesn't need to be elevated. Or it doesn't have a hinge and it needs to be elevated, like it says in the Mishnah. Rava Mitar Tzatame, and Rava responds, If it had a hinge, then it doesn't need to be elevated, or it's elevated. Okay. Taner Rabbanan, starting in the Brisa. Seichei kaitzim. These are branches of thorns. Chavilim sheskinim lepirta shebechatzar, in bundles that were prepared to fill in a gap in a fence around the courtyard. If they're tied and hanging, so then you can use this to close off that doorway or opening on Shabbos. For sure you can do it on Yom Tov. Tani Reb Chia taught on this. I don't know if it's on this, but it says Delis Almana and Negreris Ein Nailim Ba. A door that's a widow. The Gemara's going to ask what that means. That you're not allowed to use on Shabbos. Echidami Delis Almana. What is this widow door? Ikadamri Dechad Shifa. Some say that it's just one board. It's a piece of plywood. That when you put that up, it looks like you're building. That you're not allowed to put up. Vikadamri Delesle Gashma. What I understood from Rashi is that, where did I see it in Rashi? Yeah. It doesn't have a beam that connects it. I guess usually you have a board, it's a bunch of planks, and then there's a beam that goes across. This somehow, it doesn't have the beam that goes across that connects the board. Okay, it sounds like it's the same thing as the Almana. It's probably only one board. I saw another pshat meant that it doesn't have a groove on the bottom for the door to go in. What's the thing on the bottom? Under the door. Sometimes like a little metal piece by the door that the door closes right above. It doesn't have that. Now Rashi over here
threshold.
Doesn't have a threshold. Yeah. Now Rashi said over here that one of the issues that we're dealing with is that when you open and close the door, you're making a groove in the ground. Ba'aretz. Rashi rejects this. He says, because then he doesn't understand Rava. Rava said that if it has a frame, it has a hinge, then it's acceptable. Abaya said if it has the hinge, it's acceptable. Rava said if it had a hinge once, what does having a hinge once do for if it's making a scratch in the dirt floor? That's considered either chayfer or building. Okay, Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, "Hi Medusa." Someone wants to build a fire. The way you build a fire is you put the wood on the bottom. Talking about on Yom Tov, because on Shabbos you can't make a fire, but on Yom Tov you can make a fire. So how do you set up the fire? It's interesting. Sometimes people make barbecues on Yom Tov. How do you set it up? So if you're using wood, as we'll see, also probably charcoals also. So if you build it, you put two beams and you put on top. You build it up like a tower. So you can't do that because that's the building. So mimayla lamata, what you have to do is you take the upper beams or the upper pieces, you suspend them in the air. So I guess someone holds them, and you have someone else put the other ones underneath. Shari. So you're building from top down. That's acceptable. That's allowed. But you can't build it from the lower way up. You have to check this in halacha. This is actually the case. It looks like it is. The same as with eggs. Doesn't say what you're doing, but Rashi says you're putting them on coals. Or you're putting them on pieces of wood. You have to. I guess you would put the wood underneath, or if it's eggs, it's unclear if it means if you're regular piling eggs up, if you have to put it looks like from Rashi that you're just putting wood underneath the eggs. You hold those and then you put the wood underneath. V'chein kidra, this means also a pot. You would put a pot on top of other pots or on top of barrels. So usually you put two and you put one on top. Maybe you're cooking something and you have fire in between. So when you put that on top, you're building. So what you do is you suspend that and you put the other ones on. And what else? Same as a bed. You could put the legs and you put the bed across, but that would be building. So you have to do is someone has to hold the top, the bed top, and put whatever is being used as the legs underneath. And the same as with the barrel. Amalei Yahut Tzeduki Rabbi Shua ben Hananya. It was known that Rabbi Shua ben Hananya would always do debating. So he's debating now with the Tzeduki. It says, Chidka, calls him a thorn. Tiksiv b'chu taivim kechedek. Quotes a pasuk that says, the best of you are like thorns. Oh, wow. Very nice. So, Amalei, so Rabbi Shua ben Hanani responds to this Tzeduki. He says, Shatya, says, you fool. Shafel is safe for the kra. Shafel means lower down. Look, like bend your eyes lower. Look at the end of the pasuk. You stop too quickly. It says, Diksiv yasher mimasucha. What it means, in its original context over here, it means that the upright will protect like a sukkah. So what does it mean? So what's the pshat in the pasuk that the best of you is like thorns? Just like thorns can fill in a breach in the fence. Also the best of us. This means that tzaddikim, they protect us. They fill in the unprotected areas. Another pshat. They're good. What does it mean? The best of you are like thorns. It doesn't mean kechedek like thorns. The hey and the ches are interchangeable a lot of times in drushes. Shemahadkim, they grind the wicked legehenim for gehenim. Shenemar kumi. It says in the pasuk in Micha kumi, v'doishi bastian, get up and thresh, and crush. Bastian, get up and crush. Ki karna masin barzel, because karnich asim barzel, I'll make your horns out of iron, and parsei sechasim nachusha, and your feet I'll make brass or copper. Bahadikes amim rabim, and you'll grind many nations. Okay.
Doesn't hadek mean more like to crush? Hadek is like a staple in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Hadek means like to crush. To
crush.
Yeah.
To crush. V'shachakta mimena hadek, right? To crush or to grind. Okay. So how did we get into that one from Nassim? That had to do with, because we're talking about thorns filling in gaps and fences. Okay. This is a little bit of a complex sugi here. Mishnah says like this: you can't open a door with a key. If you're in a Rishus Harabim, the door is a Rishus Hayachid, because you're taking the key from the Rishus Harabim and you bring it into Rishus Hayachid. Unless you make a fence around 10 tefachim tall. I'll show you the picture.
What's the issue? You have to. This is hard to understand. But what's the key?
I think do you hear Avram Nassim?
What's the issue here? Because let's assume that the key is like on the doorpost, and you take the key off the doorpost, right? Or it's under the mat, right? You take the key from under the mat, and you open the door, but you have to carry 4 amas, right?
No, we're talking about even if you're not carrying 4 amas.
In order for it to
you have another issue. You're crossing the line. 4 amas in
only within one rishus
is only in a rishus.
Okay.
Cross the line.
Got it.
So here's a picture. If you take it off, here it's put on the roof. That's the picture. You're taking it off the roof. What does it say? How would that work? Yiftach b'rishus harabim. Is he opening a door in the Rosh Hashanah? I'm not sure how that would work. The other way is easier. He's standing in Rosh Hashanah, he's opening the door in Rosh Hashanah, unless he makes that fence over there. Okay, that's the opinion of Reb Meir. Amrulai, the sages responded, Maisa b'shuk shel Patamim. There's a story in the marketplace of Patamim, of butchers. They would be mefatim. They would stuff up the like the geese or something. They would fatten them. So these are the butchers marketplace. Shei b'Yerushalayim is in Yerushalayim. Shei noilam amnichim as maftiach b'chalein shel gabei Pesach. They would open the door with a window that was above the doorway. They took the key out from the window. Here he has a picture here. He has his doorway here, right? And up there is this little arch with a window. I can see. So, okay. So, and it wasn't an issue. Rabbi Yisrael Mishuk Shel Tzamarim it was a marketplace of wool. They sold wool. Okay. I'm not sure what he's adding to that. Maybe it's just explaining the story. Okay. V'Rabbanan Amri, V'Rabbanan Amar Reb Meir Shesarabba Mahadrina Carmelis. The Gemara has a question on the Rabbanan. Reb Meir said that there's an issue with the Rosh Hashanah. You're standing in Rosh Hashanah, you're taking the key and open the door. It's going to be putting the key into the Rosh Yachid. Maybe you'll take the key out into the Rosh Hashanah. And here, what are they talking about? They're talking about Yerushalayim. Dama Rabba Bar Chana, Rabbi Yechanan, Rabba Bar Chana says the name of Rabbi Yechanan Yerushalayim. Talking about Yerushalayim. Mali Dalsasan Nulis Balayla. If not for the doors of Yerushalayim that were closed at night, then Yerushalayim would be a problem to carry it. But because the doors are closed at night, it's not a problem. Whatever the case is, we're seeing that Yerushalayim doesn't have any issue. The only issue is, did they make an Eruv? Not an Eruv of a wall, but an Eruv of food. If they didn't make an Eruv of food, then it would just be like a Chatzar Shel Rabbim. Chatzar Shel Rabbim is a common area courtyard where you're not allowed to carry because they didn't join the food. They didn't put a meal together for everyone, matzah, whatever. But Yerushalayim doesn't have that issue of Rosh Hashanah. It has doors. Gemara answers a historical answer. Amar Papa kan kodim shnifetzu b'pirtzis kan lach shnifetzu b'pirtzis. Depends if the walls were breached, or if the doors were broken down, or the walls were breached. But apparently, at one point, at least in Reb Meir's days, when they're responding to Reb Meir, they're talking about when the walls were breached. I don't know the history of the walls. I assume the walls that we have now are the Crusaders, something like that. Right. I don't know. I don't know and if they built up the walls that were there before. I don't know. Right. And then on top they built it up over the time. This is the walls of Yerushalayim. It's not the Kaisel. Those big gates, so if those were breached, so then it becomes Rosh Hashanah. Breached more than 10 amas, of course. Rava Amar Seifas on the Saragina. Rava says no. We're not even talking about what do you think we're talking about? There's a whole other conversation that's going on in this Mishnah that where it's missing words. You have to fill in words and we're going to fix it. Vachi Kamar goes like this. You also can't stand in Rosh Hashanah and open a doorway in a Carmelis. Carmelis yiftach Rosh Hashanah, or stand in a Carmelis, open the doorway in Rosh Hashanah. Elam kenas mechitza gvay asar tvachim de Reb Meir. Unless you make this fence of asar tvachim, that's the words of Reb Meir. Amrulai. So they said back then, Ma'aseh b'shuk shel patam shei b'Yerushalayim shei noilam nichnas maftiach b'chalein shel gabei Pesach. Rabbi Yisrael Mishuk Shel Tzamarim. They respond back that no, in Yerushalayim we didn't have this problem. I know Yerushalayim is a Carmelis. but Yerushalayim didn't have this problem. So once you throw that in, that the mayor was being machmer by a Carmelist as well, then the response. Okay, let's leave it right here.